Hey everyone. So, first question, have you ever considered starting an AI agency? That's what we're here to talk about today in this video. So, if that is something that you are considering or you're perhaps in the process of doing, then perhaps this video is going to be for you. So yeah, first and foremost, are you going for the right business model? There's aspects of whenever you get into business that sometimes you're going to go into areas that maybe aren't just quite suited to you, and hopefully we can give you a little bit of insight and a little bit of know-how as we do this ourselves and have done for quite a while now. So anything we can shed light on, anything we can make you aware of before you potentially go into this venture, that's what we're going to try and achieve today. So
And I think it's a question that like a lot of people don't ask themselves before they do it. AI is like the hot thing right now. And before AI, the AI agency, there was just the agency, and the agency's been around for a long time. And we've put other names in front of it like SMMA, AIAA. We've made all these things that make it sound like it's so much different than the previous iteration of the agency. It's just an agency. And to just kind of go into what an agency does is essentially you're fulfilling a business need for a business, or a need for a business that they don't have the bandwidth, the expertise to perform. So if you think about like the marketing agency or the SMMA, they're doing social media for companies who don't have the bandwidth, the want to, the expertise to do social media marketing. So a business is going to pay a company to do that part of business for them. So they'll pay them to do their ads, they'll pay them to do their social media posts, that entire wing. And now in the AI space, we're doing basically the same thing. We're doing the AI part of that. So the automation part of the social media agency, or we'll do chatbots for the customer service part of that. So right now, when you talk about like the AI agency, it's still an agency. You're still fulfilling a function for a business that they don't have the bandwidth or the expertise to do, and they're gonna pay you a premium because, well, they don't have to pay you insurance, they don't have to hire an employee. A lot of times we're doing trainings and everything else for their employees. And there's just the sky's the limit for like what kind of agency you can start with the AI agency. We talk a lot about like just being a consultant, an AI consultant as an agency, so you can actually teach teams within a company of how to use ChatGPT, how to use automations like Zapier and Make and whatnot, because this is still new technology. Like even though like I was using if then that probably over a decade ago. Zapier and Make have made it a lot easier for companies to use APIs to integrate things that prior to now we weren't able to integrate. So that's just something to think about before we think about like what are you doing, what kind of facility, what kind of functions are you facilitating as an agency, and we're just gonna put AI in front of that. And yeah,
I agree. I think it's a key point that like AI is infrastructure, it's a software that ultimately it's not like like a drop shipping tool, like an e-commerce website where it's going to impact a certain style, or a certain method of agency. This is going to impact all agencies that have ever existed, and
yeah,
once people start realizing that, then potentially the decision around where they want to be targeting becomes a lot easier. So if you have a marketing or a sales background, then potentially pivoting your AI agency into that marketing niche is where you're going to want to go, and that's what we
yeah.
try and encourage all of our students to do. Anyone we speak to are kind of in a little bit of limbo as to about where they want to be kind of going towards. This is the sort of clarity we like to give. So hopefully that early conversation there has given you a little bit of insight into what an AI agency actually is.
I probably should have went to that next slide first before I started talking about it.
But
But
yeah,
yeah, I mean that's just that's what the actual agency it does. You're just fulfilling a function for a company, and we'll talk about it. I'm not sure where it's at in here, James. I'm sorry. This is but when you're talking about like where should I start, you just think about like what your background is and what things you enjoy. Is that actually in the slides, or can I go ahead and riff on that
yeah.
real fast?
So that will be on the latter of the slides, like understanding
Okay.
personal business experience and stuff. But the initial is just us going to be diving in a little bit more into what the AI agency model actually looks like in terms of AI and
Okay.
automation, and then we'll kind of
Yeah.
dive a little bit deeper into the business mindset aspect afterwards.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, and we can so we'll go into that later. So, but just think about like what the things you're good at, what things you enjoy doing. If you already own an agency, then like adding AI to that is just something. It's a no brainer. It's just like what skills do I need to learn to like, am I automating the tasks that I'm already doing, and would my clients benefit from me automating tasks for them? and then wrapping that up into a marketing bubble of like, okay, how do I sell this to my client? That's like part of the issue, right? So it's just like actually wrapping this up and how do I explain this to a client what ChatGPT is, what make automations are, and making them realize, okay, you need this thing,
Yep.
and that's part of the agency model as well. Is like, how do I distill my customers' problems into something that I can actually deliver to them? And a lot of times, for a business, they want very few things, and it's either like, more profit, or it's like to save time, or like to save the business owner time. So when we talk about like increasing profits, well, we look at like data analytics, we look at like marketing functions, we look at lead generation, and then we look at reducing costs, because reducing costs also increase profits. So if we can reduce costs in as far as like reducing the amount of time it takes to do a task, then we can actually increase our business functions. So a lot of these things kind of compound on top of each other. So if I increase my leads and then actually automate the workflow for my leads to go through the actual funnel, and automate a lot of that funnel, then it actually costs me less to convert a lead into a paid customer. So like all those kind of things, make an AI agency, or an agency, just super valuable.
Yeah. So this is obviously going to be like top of mind for people. It's like you've touched on it already. It's like, how do you actually make money as an AI agency? And Joe, who hit the nail on the head, you find a problem that a business has, and you solve it. That's really the real short story of what we do here and what an agency model is. You find problems and you solve them. Where those problems come from can be a number of ways, especially with the way business is forming itself nowadays, the reliance on software and multiple softwares and everything that comes with it. There is a dependence on other people teaching businesses, because they are so stuck in the weeds. They are so used to their day-to-day processes. They don't have the time. They don't have the bandwidth. They don't have the money. They just don't have the capacity to have experts come into their business full time. And so having an agency come in, introduce systems that's going to solve some problems and some bottlenecks, some of which they don't even know exist. And that's where your expertise comes into it. And you're going to be able to charge for that, especially if you can generate results for these people. If you know for certain that they have a problem that they want solving, and you can be the person to fix it, then this is where you're going to make money as an AI agency.
Yeah, I think being a problem solver is just a really good skill to have, and to be labeled as a problem solver. Uh, that's a really good skill to have.
For sure. So in terms of like the monetization of the AI agency, there's a couple of things here on the screen. And one of it says is revenue streams. And so this is basically talking about how you might actually generate that financial income from your clients, whether that's on a monthly basis where you continue to adopt and iterate new ideas and problems and solve problems for them over a long period of time. Or are you going to do something more, off a one project basis? You're going to charge a setup fee, and you're going to allow them to control it themselves. There's all these sort of possibilities and ways in which we can make money as an agency. Now, from a fundamental perspective, the more MRR, which is monthly recurring revenue, that you can actually get as an agency, the more sustainable that's going to become for you. But that doesn't mean that you can just unrealistically go ahead and charge 5K per month for a chatbot and expect these business owners to actually pay for it, right? So there's an element of realism here. There's an element of malleability needed with your pricing. In our opinion, and what we've found recently, is there's no two set ways of pricing unless you specifically have the entire product from start to finish that that is repeatable. But then once you start doing that, it doesn't become a one-to-one solution. It becomes a one-to-many solution. And that's another topic for another conversation.
It is. That's a very, yeah. And it's kind of like going back just a tiny bit. When we talk to like our customers and we get leads, one of the biggest problems is like, I would say like right now, like everybody's aware of AI. The big question I think a lot of companies are asking is how do I use AI in my company? How can, and like I think that's where the gap is I know I need this thing, I just don't know how to use it for me. It's the same thing if you're old enough to think about like social media, and like a lot of companies are like, well, why do I need a Facebook page, or why do I need this? It's like, well, you need this because attention is very valuable, and it's becoming more and more valuable as time goes by. Even like in local scenes, like Facebook pages, Google is just even being even more important. And what's happening is in a lot of these companies we speak to is they have teams of people who are at their max bandwidth. They just don't have time once they like finish coding all day long. They don't have time or the want to like go look at AI and how AI is going to work for them. They just don't have that time or luxury to do that. And that gap is massive for us because if you have time, if you're not making all this money and you have all the time in the world, okay, then you have time to research how could AI work in this niche, how could AI work and benefit and save these engineers more time, save these companies more money. And that's when you present that in a elegant way, then that company can say, okay, look, how about this? How about I pay you in order to research how this would work in our business? You don't even have to do the work. I think a massive niche is going to be, and what we found recently is not even doing the work, but doing the proof of concept. Like a lot of companies want to look at AI, but they don't want anybody who's gung ho and saying, "Hey, look, we're going to transform your business by adding in chatbots and adding in all these AI things." They're scared of that. They don't know that. Like a lot of companies are afraid to mess up because they have spent decades in a lot of cases honing their relationships and honing their reputation. And if they mess up one time, they've already seen companies mess up with AI. If they mess up, it's going to take them decades, if ever, to recoup that reputation, and they don't want to risk that. So
Yep.
what we're doing, and a lot of other companies are doing, is they're actually just providing companies with proof of concepts. This is how AI would work in your business. This is the budget you would need for this function. This is how I would incorporate these things in your business. Another niche is going to be talking to corporations on how to train their employees on how to use GPTs, how to use different functions in AI. So whether it be Zapier or Make, and teaching them and being that authority and almost like an advisor to companies on how to use AI. And I think that's going to be if you position yourself in that right soon of like, hey, I've done the research. This is how your particular corporation, your employees, your employees in accounting, your employees in marketing could utilize these GPTs, these functions, these automations to make your entire business, not just one person, your entire business function better. And I think that's just something that we need to look at now and position ourselves in now to be that authority. And whether that be posting content online or just making cool shit and sharing it to people, which is our motto, just making cool shit, making cool demos, and then going to these companies and saying, hey, look, I can train your employees on how to make these things themselves. So you pay me a one-time fee, or you pay me a retainer to like go and be that expert for you, so you don't have to spend all this money hiring a whole new employee to do this.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I hope that makes sense.
No,
Yeah.
that does. That makes perfect sense. And that's the reality of the business model. And if you get it right and you manage those expectations of the client from when they see the AI being used for them, but then you actually prove the way it can be used for their business, there's a whole other like trust barrier there that you've broken down, and that enables your business to thrive so much more.
Yeah.
The problem with what we see with a lot of AI agency owners right now is they're desperately trying to get these solutions into the business as quick as possible without factoring in the business's needs and requirements first. And there's
Yeah.
also that aspect that will tarnish a relationship in the long run, because that system won't be refined and it won't be produced for that person. So eventually results aren't going to generate how they want. They're going to have mistakes, and that's going to ruin your reputation as an AI agency owner or as a business owner, especially if you're building yourself a brand online. So we're also here to, unfortunately, be that, the devil on the shoulder as well as the angel on your shoulder, to be like, you have to realize that you're taking on big commitments by taking on this job. Understand what you're getting
Yeah.
into, appreciate this is real world shit. There's real world consequences with this stuff if it doesn't go right. And you just got to be aware of that. It's not something to be scared of. It's a realization of what business is and selling a service to another human being. So that aspect, I think, is key. But yeah, I think this has been great.
So you're saying a lot of companies, and I see this as well. So you're saying a lot of businesses, people getting into the space, are making solutions for themselves versus making solutions for their um, customer. They're not thinking about their customer enough, and they're like, "Oh, I want to sell this. Okay, yeah, I want to sell this product versus like make a product for you."
And it's a hard balance, right? Because like the best way to learn in this space is to learn by doing, right? So if you're
Mhm.
entering into AI and you've not really played around with it much, maybe you've just played with
Yeah.
ChatGPT a little bit and you've got it to draft you an email or something simple like that, then you don't really understand the full complexities of what it's actually capable of. And that's fine. That's what we're here to do. We're here to kind of unearth that for you and make that journey that little bit easier. But you have to realize that that is, potentially where you're at. And it's down to you to get stuck in. And the best way for us, what we say is to get stuck in, is to use AI to benefit yourself. But then there has to be a line drawn through that, because the moment you start talking to business owners, you have to put that aside and you have to forget what was good for you, and you have to open your eyes up and do that key thing, which is called open your ears up, do that key thing, which is called listening, and actually listen
Yeah.
to the problems that these business owners are giving you, right? Because what your problems are and what you're facing is completely different to what they are. So you have to be able to separate that from your learning and your personal development, and then the personal development of a client relationship. So yeah, great question.
No, that's a key point. That's a great point of listening. And I think that's something that we, it's when we get super in the weeds, it's really hard. You get super excited about this thing you made. And if you don't listen to your customer, if you don't listen to your client of their actual needs, then you're just going to miss the mark completely. Because, and this happens to me as well. It's like, I pride myself on listening. I pride myself on thinking about what the customer, truly wants. But a lot of times if and this is why we communicate back and forth, I'll, think of one path and the customer is still thinking on the other path. And that's why it's super, clarity and doing like a lot of those documentations that we teach, the requirement documents, and just making sure they're super clear, making sure this entire process is very clear for not just the customer, but for yourself as well. So you're truly understanding what the client wants. And the only way to do that is by listening, and interrogating almost the client and listening to what they're actually saying, listening to their pain points, kind of drawing them out and getting them to open up about like what they really want. A lot of times, especially in the scene, is like we'll say AI, and that's why like I don't think we like the word AI, because it kind of muddies the water a little bit. Versus just saying, hey, like, what are your problems? Like, how's business? Like, what's going on with your business? What's your pain points? Whatever. Like, leave it to me to think about the AI aspect of this as I'm listening. I don't have to say the words AI. I just have to listen to you and say, okay, in my head, thinking, okay, well, we can automate this task. We can actually make a chatbot for this task. And as they're talking, just truly listening, and kind of like holding that in the back of your head. And as they're bringing up new pain points, you can kind of start mapping out in your head what you think, and then presenting them in a very elegant way of, okay, this is your biggest pain point. I'm really excited about working on this chatbot, but like that's not what they need. They don't need a chatbot right now. What they need is just some better process management. Like they just need to a better funnel. And that may or may not deal with AI, which is, again, it might just be agency functions, which is fine. Like you're just an agency that does AI shit.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree.
Cool.
Totally agree.
And then I think the last, so like we cover, so pricing models. You want to touch on that real fast? Because I think that's a pretty big one that a lot of people want to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whenever we have priced projects in the past, it's always been kind of like quite a difficult discovery, especially if you've not done it before. And it is, unfortunately, it's a trial and error aspect of doing it, because it is custom solutions. The reality is, though, that we are a cash positive industry. So, when you're getting your foot in the door of these businesses, yes, you're maybe trying to provide value up front, but there's a difference between providing value, which is knowledge and, potentially some documentation you give them and stuff like that. And then there's another aspect of actually charging for your time, and being able to, break down that barrier and go, okay, I'm no longer a novice in this space. I'm now becoming an expert, and people need to charge for this time. That's a key, that's a key pivot for us. It was a little while ago for us. And so having that aspect around your pricing models, really kind of valuing your time, valuing your services, like what Jofu said, we charge for scopes of work, we charge for the actual data and the research and everything that goes into it, because we are certain that with that allocation of funds, which isn't a lot, but with that allocation of funds, we are able to achieve so much more custom tailored results and better outcomes for these people, rather than having to quickly chuck stuff together for free all the time and ultimately leave yourself in a position where you're working for free and the cash positivity just isn't there. So the ability to always have cash coming in through the door, being paid for your services, and then being able to build those services with that cash that's coming in, so that you're not, always at a break-even point, you're not always working for free, and then potentially having a client leave you. These are all the stuff that we kind of have understood over time now and have experienced. Unfortunately, we've had it where we start building something and then the client a month later turns around, they don't want it, or you build a huge scope of work for someone and then they just disappear and go hire other developers or whatever they do. Unfortunately, this is the reality of information on business online. It's deemed free by everyone, but we have to value it for sure. So, yeah, a few aspects of pricing models. You can price hourly. You know, at the end of the day, we don't like the hourly kind of model as such, because we see ourselves more as like glorified freelancers in that aspect. When you're an agency, the ability to outsource all of this work, control dev costs, control the actual costs that go into builds, that's the freedom that you're giving yourself with an agency over being like a freelancer, for example. So
I'll touch on two things just real fast, and the first thing is intention. So I think until you have proof, you need guarantees, right? And I think one of the best ways to gain proof is doing things for free, which is that can just be a demo. It doesn't have to be like a full-fledged product. But if you are going to do stuff for free, like James said, we are a cash positive business. Now, you do earn something from getting from getting word of mouth, getting a testimonial. So if you're going to do something for free, make sure that you are getting, something out of that, a testimonial, referrals, like something that where you can actually, okay, I did all this work. Now I can use 3 referrals that Jan gave me because I did a really good job on the chatbot, or like I communicated well. That's, so the intention is there. And the reason why I say intention is because you're knowingly going into this project knowing, okay, I'm going to do this for free. And by doing this, I'm going to get this out of it, right? I'm learning how to communicate with the client. I am getting a referral from the client. I'm able to like test my ideas out. I get market validation because like, even though they're not paying me for it, it's something they would pay for. You also get feedback. So at the end of it, you actually get feedback and say, hey, Jan, how did I do? What could I have done better? And if you give me this feedback, then I'll give you, if she did pay me a little bit, hey, I'll do this for free if you do give me feedback at the end, if you do give me something. Now, once you do that 1 or 2 times, then you say, okay, even if it's $1, all right, Jan, it's going to cost me $1 to do this. Okay. And then every time you do that, depending on how much work you're having to, that's involved, then go up $500, then go up $1,000, then go up $2,000, then just keep increasing your price until somebody says no. The reason why we're able to charge as much as we do, because we do charge a good premium above the market, is what I think is communication, and also the guarantee that we're going to get the job done. Like when we're and it's not the fact that like we say, hey, we guarantee we're going to get the job done. We don't guarantee that we're going to get the job done. It's the customer feels guaranteed. They feel comfortable with us talking because we go above and beyond. And like James said, we charge for scopes of work. We charge for requirement documents, and we let the customer know like, hey, like we're going to do all this work for you. You're going to pay us for this, but at the end, you're going to get a Bible of like what exactly you need to do, what engineers you need to hire, what integrations you can and cannot make. You're basically going to get a roadmap of how this job should be done, how long it should cost, how much the budget should be. And if you want to, you can actually go to another developer and hand them this Bible after we're done and say, hey, can you make this for me? Because Joe from them either didn't want to or couldn't make it for us. And that goes to the second point of, by doing this first step, I'm able to, we are able to get a relationship with the client. We know how they work. They know how we work. And ideally, we have really, really good rapport. The fact that we're saying, hey, like here, take this and go to another developer if you want to, has so much goodwill because they're like, we're not like trapping them and saying, oh, haha, we got you now. Like we're the only people who can do it. No, I'm giving you the Bible. I'm giving you the blueprints so that you can go to any other developer you want. And they can just say, okay, cool. This is how I would do it. And the costing's already there. The budget's already there. We've already interviewed enough people to know how this job is going to get done. And that has a lot of goodwill. And by the time we give them this document, well, I mean, the majority of the cases, they're going to want to do business with us because we built that rapport. We've done that work. They trust us. They also know how we communicate. So they're comfortable with our communication method. We delivered them something so they know, so that barrier of entry was kind of low. It's not too expensive. And they trusted it with us with that money. And guess what? We gave them what we said we are going to give them. We were very clear in what we're going to deliver. And when you deliver on that plus some, they're going to be like, man, it was really, really good working with these guys. And that's what we strive for. And if we don't strive for that, if we don't get that, or if we don't want to work with that person anymore, at the end, I already tell them like, hey, if we don't want to do this job, like when we actually sign on for clients for scopes of work, we tell them like, hey, we might not want to work on this. Or we might think this is out of our scope and here, go do this for somebody else. So we have that option. We've already kind of laid the groundwork of, okay, even though we do all this work, we may not want to work with you. and that's okay. I think it's perfectly fine in business. Like, you don't have to work with everybody. You should only be working with, and when you can. Sometimes you need money. I get that. I understand. But you should only be working with the customers that are it's mutually beneficial for. It's like it's a home run. Like, I want to work with clients that I know this is gonna be a home run. I want to work with clients that I know at the end we deliver so well that they're going to tell all their friends. I want that product market fit where people are coming to us begging to work with us because our customers are raving fans. They're massive fans. They're like, oh my God, dealing with Founders Forge, dealing with Web Forge, it was so awesome. Like, I have to work with these guys. Like, there's no other developer I want to work with because they've made me feel so good about this entire process. And when you're talking about building an app, you're talking about between $15,000 to $100,000 for an app. And also, it's their business, it's their money. It's very emotional. It's a very emotional, draining task. So if you go in there and you're not communicating well, they're scared, they're having a follow up with you, they're having to ask you questions, then like that's scary for them. They're like, oh, did I get screwed? Like, if a customer has to come after me, then we're gonna have some come to Jesus meetings internally. Okay, this customer should know at every single point during the plan, during the process of building this app, there should be a Kanban chart where they can actually go up and say, okay, oh wow, Jofu's working on this, Ben's working on this, James working on this. There are 2 engineers working on this. This is actually going to be due next week. Okay, awesome. I don't even have to like contact Jofu and them. And oh wow, they just sent me an email. Oh holy shit, they sent me a loom of it actually working. This is awesome. Like, we just want it to be. We want to constantly be selling that customer the entire time. I know this is freaking scaling. I mean, I know this is about pricing, but like, that pricing, all that stuff matters when it comes to pricing, because that's how we can price more than another dev, is because all that shit, all that emotion, all that stress that comes with, oh man, I got to make a new app, is alleviated. It's all freaking like, it's a pleasure to spend that money. They're like, man, I would spend that money in a heartbeat again.
Yeah, I agree. We are the knights in shining armor who come to save the day for a lot of these business owners. We've had conversations where, tools have been 20 years old in a business and it's 5 years out of date. And for 5 years in a business, they've been, jumping through hoops and, bending over backwards to try and make this tool work for their processes in their business. And now we're getting into a time where software is more accessible to people. We'll talk about this very quickly when we get into the next step. But non-technical versus technical founders, like, you can be both in this space. It's not like back in the day when web developers needed to have a development background. Like, you don't have to have a developer background to make it successful in this space. Why? Because of 2 things: AI and no-code solutions, right? Stuff that we get into and we preach till the sun goes down every single day and until the day we dies. They make life so much easier for the average Joe to enter this space. Why do I know that? Because I was one of them, people.
Yeah.
I am one of those non-technical founders. But guess what? I can now be in a room with a Jofu or a Ben or whoever that runs or works in AI or around data or in technology, and I can stand in that room in conversation with confidence, right? And that's not through any arrogance or inner beliefs that I'm just smarter than everyone else. It's got nothing to do with that whatsoever. It's the fact that AI was my best friend when it come to learning and it first come out, and it's the easiest thing for you to use to actually realize how you can break this stuff down pragmatically. It is a brain, people. Like, it is one of the smartest things you'll ever converse with. So the quicker you understand how to converse with it, and this is what we preach, the sooner you'll actually see the benefits of it for everyone else around you and the businesses around you. So I think that's a perfect time to go on to the next slide, to be fair, Jofu, because I think this dives into a little bit of AI stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I'm on the, there we go. Beautiful.
Well, technical and non-technical founders.
Lovely.
Yeah. So what is the difference, people? As a technical founder, you're maybe someone who has been involved in development in the past, whether you know code, maybe you've always just been part of Excel, so SQL and formulas. You've been on the internet, you've been around software, you're great with your iPhone, you're just good with technology in general. That would be the field that I would see that person sitting in, right? And then we have the non-technical. Now, maybe you're part of someone in this society who, isn't great with an iPhone, or, potentially hasn't ventured much onto the internet, or, doesn't know what automation is, or doesn't know what AI is. This is where you're going to fall into this bracket. And I like the fact that this has split this up for us, because we know full well that both people can make it successful in this space. You just have to find your own path, and you have to allow
Yeah.
time to craft that path. And there's one commonality that we've seen across the board with technical and non-technical founders, and it's technical founders come into this environment and they know product. They can get to grips with the technology. They can understand how it works, how it goes together. But sales and marketing and actually building a product for someone else or building their own brand or actually selling the thing that they've built is often something that they really suffer with because it's just not innately in their human nature. They think about things more from a technical standpoint. Whereas the non-technical founders, the people who have maybe got a sales background, the people who have got a marketing background, the people who have just generally not been involved in as much technology, but they still have very, very viable skill sets and stuff that businesses desperately, desperately need every day. This is where you're going to fall into this bracket. And so potentially adopting the development aspects are going to take a little bit more time. But when it comes to the marketing and the selling side of things, you take to that like a duck to water. So these are like just the separation of how we have seen it. Experience and inexperience. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, Jofu, and how that sometimes falls into it. I know we talk about that again in a little bit, but I think it's quite
Yeah.
fitting for
No.
this comparison as well.
Yeah. I think it's super important to think about like where you're starting at and what skills you do have. And just because somebody's a technical founder doesn't mean they're better or worse than a non-technical founder. It's who can convey their pain or who can listen to a customer's pain more and create a vision for that customer that makes them trust you that you can actually deliver on that. Now, when you're technical, you can understand how these things work, but AI is changing so fast that like that gap is changing completely. Like you can have an entire app, you can have an entire MVP in a few weeks, like from okay, I want to start an AI agency. If I already have those skills of like listening and learning, if I'm a learner and I look at like and I'm like, okay, what do I need to make this thing work? Like this one problem. I think the problem, and we could probably talk about this later, is you want to make all these things work. I'm not niche, so I'm trying to learn all these things. And if you're like, hey, I'm trying to solve a problem for one particular person, one particular niche, in one particular instance. So like, I am looking at like one very particular issue in one very defined niche, then I can solve that problem because that problem is defined. Whenever I try to solve a problem that's not defined, it's the hard. And this goes in when you're looking at technical founders as well. Like sometimes we're like, oh, we can solve these problems. It's like, yeah, of course you can, but do you have the time? Do you have the money? Do you have the know-how? What do I have to learn to solve this problem? So when you come in this from like a technical foundation or a non-technical foundation, it's you still have to learn stuff. Even though like you're a technical founder, you still have to learn shit. We learn stuff all the time. So like it's not technical or non-technical. It's hey, can you learn and can you listen and can you follow directions? Are you going to try to reinvent the wheel every time you see a customer? Can you have the discipline to learn and solve a defined problem? Can you listen to a customer and understand what their problem is, and then can you solve that problem? If you can solve problems, then people are going to solve you. People are going to pay you for the value of that problem you're solving, right? And that's just the fact of it.
Right, everyone, we're back for part 2. We do apologise if this is like a bit of a scenic change and a set change in terms of costumes and stuff. Jofu decided to have a water balloon fight with his children, so yeah. So we're back now to discuss the second part of this slide that we was talking about. Obviously, just to round it up a little bit, we've obviously spoken about the general starting of an AI agency, what the agency model actually is, the sort of aspects and what it takes to actually run one of those things, and yeah, just a few of those little bits and pieces about that. And now Jofu briefly talked about the technical and non-technical aspects and the experience versus non-experience in this space, and we're going to now dive a little bit deeper into about developing your business mindset and truly kind of getting into the efficiency and the correct understanding of what it takes to actually be a business owner. Like some people think it's just a run in the park. It's really not, and it is about your mental approach to a lot of this stuff, and how you approach a lot of this stuff is important. So first one on here, obviously we've mentioned it I don't know how many times, but the mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset, being able to have a willingness to take risks, adapt to change, continuously learning and improving. Like these are fundamentals and stuff that you have to have throughout your business journey throughout. It's not something that you have to have at the beginning and then you can slowly lose towards the end. Like you have to have this going on throughout your business all the time. You have to constantly have that willingness to learn and improve.
All right, so I think the first thing we need to look at is your personal mindset toward risk and how you feel about it. So some people are risk averse and some people are risk seeking. If you look at me and yourself, James, I'm more risk seeking than you are. You're more risk averse, and it's not to saying that you're not willing to take risk. It's just the amount of risk that you are willing to take. Neither one of those approaches are correct. Neither one are right or wrong. But we have to adapt. And we have to understand where we start at. So where's this start out with business? Entrepreneur mindset. Well, the first thing is I need to set myself up. I need to set myself up for success. A lot of people like myself, when they started their first business, went like balls to the wall. Okay, I'm tired of my job and I'm going to quit. I'm going to start this thing and I'm going to be successful. And sometimes that works. Unless you're the main character of the story, it's probably not going to work. A lot of times it's really good to have that wolf breathing down your neck. But if you don't need that wolf down your neck, then don't have it down your neck. And what I mean by that is like sometimes like, hey, rent is due in 4 days. I need to make $1,000. How do I do that? And some people will thrive in that situation, but it's silly to put yourself in that situation if you don't need to be in that situation. So just before we get into like the entire like mindset of things, let's just make sure that we're set up for success. So if you're like right now, you have a good job or you just have a decent job and you're tired of it, you're just like sick and tired of it, and you want to start an AI agency or an agency, like stay in that job, because what's going to be very valuable to you is having that cash injection in until you can actually make that jump to start to do this full time. And why is this important? Well, cash is so important in this job in this agency field, because with more cash you can do more things. A lot of the stuff that like we do and I do is not the direct action of what I do. It's the direct action of what I get other people to do. So we have VAs, we have agents who work for us, we have other agencies who work for us, we have engineers that work for us. And like I could honestly, well, maybe I couldn't do it now because of how busy we are, but there's a certain amount of like leverage I have that I could be doing other things. I could be working if I needed to and just work on this for 4 to 5 hours a night and make sure during the daytime, I have everybody doing the tasks that I need to complete that objective, right? So just making sure that you have one, cash, and then two, like if you start this business and you don't have that, that money coming in and rents due, well, that's just going to make you desperate. And the thing about sales is people can smell desperation like no other thing. They can tell that you're trying to sell them, and that's not what you want to do. You don't want to be in a situation that's like desperate out of desperation. You want to you want to be making cool shit, and you want to be showing it to people. And if you don't have the time to make cool shit, then can you pay somebody to make some cool shit? Can you partner up with somebody to make some cool shit? Can you make some cool shit on the side? Like let's do that first. Now, on the weekends, on nights, like we work 7 days a week. We're recording this on a Saturday. Okay. I think, me personally, if you really want to strive in this business, and if you don't have that extra time, and like we have time, we do this full time now, but we still work Saturdays and Sundays. And that just gives us 2 full extra days every single week that we're getting on the competition. I want everybody to succeed, but we're also super hyper competitive. That's why I'll give you everything I know and I'll give you everything I have, because I'm still so competitive that like I'm still trying to win, even if I'm just outmatched. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just like I'm still in the pit. And I think that's another thing you need to have as well, is just that just what's the word for it? Just the tenacity to survive and just make it happen.
Business is brutal, man. Like there's no two ways about it. Like, who is you one day your client may one day not be, right? And that might be, you might have not done anything wrong, but another business owner has come along and just pitched it differently, packaged it differently, offered slightly more than what you're now giving them. We've seen it firsthand the other day with one of the members of the Discord. Like, he signed a client based off of a deal that's basically replaced an existing deal and bolted on a load of new offers. And that other person now, who that was his previous client, like he's now lost that person. Like that's the brutality of business. There's always going to be a winner and loser on either end, unless you're going for brand new business owners all the time. So, and being in that environment, like it is, you do have to have the tenacity, you have to have the empathy, you have to have the confidence that you're making the right decisions for you or your clients. All this sort of stuff comes into it. And the entrepreneurial mindset is such a broad spectrum. Like you can dive into the psychology behind things, you can dive into the mentality, or your how committed you are to something, or how much you execute on things. Like there's so many ways in which you could break that down. But ultimately, it's just about instilling good habits, and habits that are going to last. Stuff that certainly for me, it takes time. It's you can want to do something, and it's the right thing to do, but actually having it as a habit in your lifestyle, that's different. That means you've done it over a period of time, and you're just so used to it that it's just something that you do. And these sort of processes in business, unfortunately, some of them there is no glamour around them. Writing emails to people. Obviously, we have AI now, but if you really want to write personalized emails and do the research, maybe you're going down sales nav, maybe you're doing some other aspects, right? If you want to add personal touches to this and really find out like the skill set or the personal information you're looking for, you have to do the hard work. So it's not easy. Like it's just not easy. And so again, just reiterating the fact that it's possible, it's doable. All of this is doable. Like millions and millions of dollars is out there for people to make whenever they want. But if you think you're going to come in this space, if you think you can just do it without lifting a finger, it's probably not the reality. Now you might come in this
Yeah.
place with a load of money, right? And because of that, you don't have to lift the finger because you can distribute all of that cash. You can use that resource that we've talked about. Most people aren't in that situation, so that's the reality. So
Well, the thing about you can have all the cash, but you still, and we had this conversation yesterday, like with scopes of work. Like, should I, um, get somebody else to do the scope of work? And it's like, well, you need to learn how to make before you sell the sauce. You need to learn how to make the sauce. You need to learn a certain amount. I'm not saying you need to be the person that makes the sauce all the time, but you at least need to understand how that sauce is made. If you're not making your own sauce, if you're not making your own scopes of work, you need to understand what works about them, why they're a thing, just the general. There's a certain amount of knowledge you need to have about this. We don't I personally don't make a chatbot, but I understand how chatbots work. I understand the intent behind them. I understand the user experience from that side of things. I know as a user how I want a chatbot to work. I know it, as a user, like I put a lot of time into thinking about that. As a user, how do I want something to work? So I might not be like the best person in the world to make a chatbot, but I've thought a lot about how I want the experience to be as a user and how other users want that experience to be. I'm so glad you brought up habits because Atomic Habits is like one of like I keep going back to that book all year. It's just so it's so just filled with just meat. It's just like so meaty. It's like every sentence is just actionable shit you should be taking. And so like I'm not gonna suggest a lot of books in this thing because I don't want to send people down the rabbit hole of like watching 40 YouTube videos and watching like all these things that aren't actionable, that aren't like how do I build something. I don't want people to get down, and this is going back into mindset of, when you're getting into the mindset of things, do not get in the habit of watching YouTube videos that don't directly impact what you're going to be doing. So like if you're going to watch a YouTube video like on productivity, make sure that it's a video that you can actually action. If it's a video about like Smart Suite or about chatbots or what, like something, that's fine. Like watch those videos because if you are starting, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, if you are starting anew, then you need to like learn a skill. If you don't have a skill, then you need to learn a skill. So you need to learn how to use Smart Suite, Airtable, Make, Zapier, all these things. But going back to just the mindset of things, like you have to have this trigger in your head of, okay, this is working and this is play. And like there's a lot of times before you do something, you go into it not knowing if it's working or play. You assume it's work, but halfway through the video, you're like, okay, this is not work, this is play. Then you need to just immediately have that button of like, all right, cancel, let's go to the next thing. Because we do this all the time where we'll even be having conversations where, okay, this is work. Okay, now it's play. And I'm just using play very loosely. It could be about work, but it's not actual work, if that makes sense. So just if you're a solopreneur, it's so important that you have the mindset of, I have these clear goals that I want to have, because your time is so much more precious than my time is, because I have a team now. James, we all have a team. I can all bounce off ideas off of James. James can say, hey, Jofu, did you do this thing? You don't have that yet if you're a solopreneur. You don't have a system of people around you that like you're accountable to. You're accountable to yourself. And that's one of the scariest things, with starting a business, is there's no boss to tell you, hey, are you, unless you have a wife like mine who's like, hey, make sure you're doing that thing. But like, you need to make sure that you have the mindset of I can have a goal, and I can be disciplined enough to follow up through that goal. So what are some goals you should be having first off? One of the first things you need to do is set these goals. And what kind of goals should I set? Well, let's talk about the 30,000 foot view. Is why am I starting a business? Okay, well, I want to start a business because I want to be the richest person in the world. I want to start a business so I can just pay my rent. I want to start a business so I can, whatever that goal is. Like, I don't know it for you. For me, it's just, hey, I want to, like, the first goal is I want to be able to pay rent. I want to have $500 so I can pay for my electricity and gas and all that stuff. All right, great, cool. We have the first goal. So, like, once we have that very clear goal, it can't be, in my opinion, it cannot be, I want to be rich, or I want to be like a billionaire. Like, that's cool. That's not a really good. That's not a goal. That's just it's a pipe dream. So, like, what's my first goal? And I would go so far as to say, like, I want to have $10,000 a month. That's a very famous one. That's one everybody wants. Like, that's cool. That's going to take you time. Unless you start, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, unless you start with other assets, it's going to take you time to get to that point. So, like, let's say this, let's our first goal is to get one client. My first goal is to make something cool. My first goal is to, is to have 3 clients. That's not my first goal is now, or to make $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month. Those are like actionable goals. Okay. You want $5,000 a month recurring. That doesn't mean just having one customer. That means I want to have a system where I can onboard, where I can satisfy, where I can complete the work for multiple clients in a row. So, okay, what do I need for that to be in place? Well, when we started off, and this is another thing you have to do is to have clear communication and concise communication to where other people can understand what you want. In my head, when we started this thing, I had a pipeline in my head of, okay, we get clients, and then that client goes on this awesome journey. It's like going down the, a boat ride, and they see all these beautiful things, and at the very end, they get what they wanted. They get this dream outcome. And in my head, it's like, okay, we need to use SmartSuite because SmartSuite is going to be the backbone of our entire company. Because I've seen what Monday and I've seen what all these Asana and all these other tools could do. For me, SmartSuite was that magical thing that in order for us to fulfill 10 plus clients a month, we need a system that has the backbone to do this. That was like our goal of $50,000 per month. In order to do that, we needed to have a system that can support that. Now, when you're starting off, you can use something like Airtable. You can use something like Google Sheets. You don't need a fancy CRM. You just need something that functions, something that works. Use Google Sheets. Like, that's fine. Use Airtable. Really good. But have that goal and then plan out that entire thing. And the other thing, this whole process before you actually start working should take maybe 5 hours. So what does that include? Well, when you start, that should include your logo, your business name, and all that other bullshit up until like your website, all that stuff. Give yourself 5 hours. That's it. You have 5 hours. Yeah, if you can't make a website in 5 hours, then like come talk to us. Come talk to somebody else and say, hey, I need a website built, or like whatever. Like go to Framer, go talk to Ben and say, hey, dude, like but like there becomes a point where people will start looking at their logo and they spend days on a logo. The name of their business, days on a business. Let me tell you a secret. You can change your logo anytime you want. We've already changed our logo like 3 or 4 times. Okay. And nobody will notice. Nobody will care. You can change your website. You can change other stuff. But like you're just playing around at that stuff. So just going back to mindset just for a second of being able to say, okay, this is the junk. This is the stuff that like is not really going to impact my business versus this is the stuff that's going to impact my business. Learning how to use tools, learning how to use SmartSuite, learning how to use Chatbot Builder, learning how to fulfill a client's request, learn how to make automations with Zapier Make, Relay, etc. So I know I went on for a little bit. I don't know if you want to add on that at all, James.
Yeah, no, it's just it emphasizes the reality of how much there is internally that goes on inside of an agency. Like the reality is it's drummed up as this really easy online business model that, you can work a couple of hours a day on and all this sort of stuff. And the reality is it's just not that simple. So, because Jofa goes into such detail, yes, all right, if you're new to this, some of that won't make sense. Some of it you won't follow along. It's not really designed to be that way. It's just, we're here to highlight the fact that this is the reality of the industry that you potentially, and we're thankful if you are getting into it, that you're going into it, and it just boils down to that final slide there, like effective execution. And no matter how
Mm.
big or how small you're starting off, as long as you can execute, right? And that's in small chunks. Jofu's like enlightened me on this for a while. Whenever we get like maybe slightly bigger profile clients now, and then you see the scale of the work that comes through, maybe you get hold of their database, or you just see some aspects of a business that maybe I haven't come across before, and it can be quite daunting to look at from an if like when you're looking at the end goal and you're seeing that full big picture, right? It's like, yes, that's a
Mm.
long way off, but let's break this down into chunks, and building your agency, getting that first client, like that seems a long way off for some of you. Like maybe it's to get to 10K a month, 20K a month, whatever. That might seem an eternity off. And it will do if you look at it from the perspective of going from 0 to 20K. But if we look at it from the process of what it takes, what you need to do, what you need to execute on through that process to eventually get to that point, then you're going to be in a much better position and actually have the steps and be able to break it down into chunks and then actually give executionable steps that you can achieve. And by giving yourself those goals you can achieve, then you're going to actually feel like you're achieving something. You're going to feel like the cogs are turning, the wheels are moving forward. You're actually moving in a forward direction. The reason why a lot of these people in this space, or in general, when they get into business first, is they spend hours on a website, they spend hours on a logo, on a business name, and all this type of stuff, and then they feel like they're not getting anywhere. Well, that's because you're not getting anywhere. Like you feel that way because you aren't getting anywhere, people. Like that's the reality. Like your subconscious and everything that's telling you, your gut feeling, it's like that you shouldn't be doom scrolling on social media. You know that you shouldn't be doing all of this stuff, but you're doing it anyway. And they're the habits that we've got to break. And that's what the sort of, you got to break those habits and fill that time up with tasks that can execute and benefit your future. And I think that's a perfect way to round up this, like, developing the business mindset, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
just feel like
and
we
just
could talk
to
about
give
it
a tip,
forever. And
we could.
you could, it's just like, you just got to bang the hammer, people. You got to say to yourself, like, enough is enough. If you want change, you got to do something about it. And it's just down to you, like, from that point, from a mindset perspective.
So something simple that I do, and this probably won't apply to most people, but it's worked well for like social media for me and a lot of like different tasks. Is if you ever like I've never used Tinder in my entire life, but I understand like the swiping portion of it. I'm too old to have had to use it, but I understand like the swiping portion of it. And for me, it's wax on, wax off. The Karate Kid. So Daniel Son, you wax on, wax off. So I did this early with like Facebook and with like negative thoughts. I would always have negative thoughts that would just like enter in my brain, like people don't like you and you're ugly and like you're just not gonna do, like, I mean, just the worst thoughts. And so what I would always do is like, okay, cool, that's a cool story, and like I would just wax it off, wax on, wax off, wax off. And so like I would just like slide that idea. I would like try to envision that idea of like, okay, no one likes you, and I would literally have a bubble and just kind of slide it away. And so like now this took literally years to develop. I mean, it was like the longest time, and it's eventually like those ideas just stopped penetrating my brain. But I still use that same thing right now, where like whenever the second I realize that I'm not doing the thing that I need to be doing, and this happens all the time, and I'm highly ADHD, so it happens all the time. But the second I realize that I'm having a thought, or I'm having or I'm doing an activity that I know I shouldn't be doing, or like I realize I shouldn't be doing, I'll just like slide it to the left, slide to the right, like just
Snap
get rid
out
of
of
that
it.
idea, or
Mhm.
yeah, just snap out of it, just kind of like but you have to like visualize in your head of like, okay, what should I be doing? Having that very clear, concise goal of where am I going, and if that is not, if it's a map and the treasure is on X and you're not going toward X, then you need to fucking turn around and go toward X. Like always be going toward X.
Yeah. And that comes with
Cool.
effective planning, continuously evolving, obviously
Yep.
always just having that bird's eye view, that capability of being able to see inside your own agency. That's why we love Smart Suite. It's not a pain in the ass right now, but we're still building it, right? So it's not as fruitful as what it will be in the future,
Yeah.
right? But when it is finally there and we can say we've built our own fully customizable CRM that literally
Yep.
covers and talks about every single process in our business, we have that overview. We have that ability to go, I need to find this bit of information. I need to organize that. I need to see what my next task is. I need to know what I've got to do today, and that's what then alleviates the thoughts out of our mind and just puts it onto, not paper, but digitally puts it on the screen in front of us. So it's like, okay, we won't forget that now. We can't ignore that. That's there. That's staring us in the face. That's got a due date. That's got a responsibility to it. I am the person in charge of that. I've got to execute, you know? And this is all the sorts of stuff we got to instill.
Yeah, I love that. And just while we're on business mindset, before I know we want to move, uh, community. I think like having people who also have that business mindset and being around those people is so important. We were just talking about with Connor about zeros and ones, and zeros are people who like talk about the thing, and ones are people who actually are doing the shit. They're making the cool stuff. They're showing people the cool stuff, and they're like they're electrifying to be around. They're like super excited to be around. They're constantly innovating. They're constantly thinking about new ideas. They're constantly just getting better. And you see that they're doing the stuff. They're making the looms. They're sending out the like we'll shout out to Ruben, like sending out the loom that he didn't want to send out and getting a client from it. Getting the onboarding call. Like people who are making action need to be around people who are making action. Like
Yep.
it just snowballs upon itself. And like that's like, and I'm not saying like join our community, but there's like just make sure the people you're around are also doing shit. Make sure the people you're around aren't like negative people. Make sure that they are positive people and they are filling your cup and not emptying your cup.
So true.
Make sure that you're doing tasks that are filling your cup. So like, we get into this thing where like myself, I will spend all day and all night on business outside of like, bringing my kids to and from. Like even then, I'm still on my phone while I'm waiting on them. I'm still like at nighttime, I'm just constantly on my phone. There needs to be a point where if you're slowly pouring your cup out, you need to put it back in. So, figure out what that is. And for me, it's like, it's this type of stuff. This type of stuff makes me like, fills me up. It makes me super excited. And that's why like, me and James doing this stuff is like really, really exciting for me, but that's not for everybody. Some people it's painting. Some people it's just being creative. Some people it's just doing the thing they enjoy, that childlike thing that they enjoy to fill that cup back out. Walking, exercise, all that shit's important. Like walking is super important. I have a sauna. Most people don't have saunas, but like if you live somewhere with a sauna, I have some of my best ideas there. Biking is one of my favorite things. I have a walking pad. It's like just have things around you that are going to make you think and kind of fill that cup back up, making sure you're healthy and happy. Just because just going back to mindset, not having balance is going to eventually catch up to you. So like those great ideas you had, if they stop coming, well, hey, am I eating correctly? Am I am I having healthy relationships? Or am I around people who are also being healthy and happy and like crushing it? Because if you're not around those type of people, it's a lot less likely, just from science, that you're gonna be, you're gonna fall out of that balance as well. So like just be around people who are killing it, and you're eventually gonna just take up those habits and start killing it yourself. Like
Mm.
I think that's probably one of the cheat codes. If you can just surround yourself with people who are killing it, then by like proxy, you're gonna even accidentally be killing it. If you just like start paying attention to what they're doing and just copy what they're doing, eventually you're gonna just get so much better than everybody else who isn't around, who aren't around people who are killing it. And like that doesn't have to be like being in a community. It could be just be working for somebody. You could find somebody who's killing it and just go work for them. Hey, I want to work for free for you for a few months just so I can learn the shit. Or be an intern or whatever it got to be to learn that thing. So
Yeah, you're a byproduct
we
of the
could talk
five
about
closest
my
people
stuff
to you.
for hours.
Oh
So was
yeah,
that?
you're a byproduct of the five closest people to you. So if you
Yeah.
are hanging around with the wrong people, at the end of the day, this is where you see all these stories on YouTube about like successful business owners talking about periods in their business life when they were completely lonely. Talking about the days of when they used to go out night clubbing, but they don't even speak to the people they used to hang around with anymore. Like
Yeah.
they are the sacrifices that professional footballers made at the age of 14 to go and get their dream. People who are playing college
Yeah.
football or whatever, like they sacrificed that from early on. Like, yes, they still had friends and everyone looked up to them and they were inspiring, but their actual journeys themselves, they sacrificed it. They come home from school and they went training every day. They ate the right foods. They've done all this. Like, they've done that from early on because they had that mindset. And it's not something that you're just born with. It's something you can develop within yourself. And I think this is what we're trying to instill the most. It's like there are signs out there all around you now in the 21st century that can tell you whether you're really doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Like, look at your Instagram feed, people. Like, if your Instagram feed is full of, for the boys out there, girls in bikinis and, cars and money and gambling and, all this sort of mentality, it's like, that's what you're surrounded by. Like, but the algorithm's given that to you. You've gone looking for that, right? You're the one who's fallen into that trap. You can soon turn that algorithm around and start looking at Alex Hormozy content about business, or other people like that, and start thinking about the mindset and everything that's going to develop your day-to-day life in that aspect too. So, at the end of the day, there's signs out there as well that are pointing you in the face and telling you like, fuck, like I need to get off Instagram. Like this isn't good for me. This isn't productive. This isn't worth my time. So for sure. I think we'll leave
I
the
just thought about
point on that.
I just thought
Go
about
on.
million dollar idea. You can cut this after the fact, but it would be for Instagram. It would be Alex Hormozy, but in a bikini, not like Alex Hormozy, but like somebody in a bikini doing the Alex Hormozy, just quoting his stuff. It
There you go.
would be an instant just $1 million business. They just kind of like it hits both of those things. Like, okay, I want to do business, but I also want to look at girls in bikinis. All right, all guys in bikinis. Like, there you go.
There you go.
Like, I think, take
There
that
you go.
idea. There you go. You're welcome.
So we've obviously spoken very much around the business mindset there, and the the generalization behind the agency business model. But now let's talk a little bit deeper about the actual AI and automation aspects of the business. What does that actually look like for people? What does that actually mean to people when we are using AI or automation? And Joe, I know you're great at explaining this, but I'll start off with like the AI ones. So for me personally, I love to think of AI as now our digital assistants, right? They have the ability or a brain m- more capable than most humans out there right now. And for general knowledge, not always like expert knowledge, but certainly like the general aspects of the ways that the information is on the internet. It's you can access this now through varying functions, text, speech, the way we interact as humans. You are slowly being able to do that with a computer, right? That is in my opinion, the real long and short of it. Um, but what does that mean for us? That is a very worthwhile tool for certain industries out there who are potentially doing loads of redundant tasks. Things that um, humans really shouldn't be doing anymore. You're worth more than doing that task. That task is so important to the running of that business. And in our heads, like this is what the AI aspect of things is. This is what it's here to do. It's here to free up what humans are, I don't like to use the word, but potentially enslaved into doing almost because they're forced into it. You look at Amazon
Yeah.
workers and how they work in the warehouse and stuff, and it's like, is that really how the humans should exist on this planet? You should be able to think. You should be able to do things. Everyone, should, in my opinion, should be able to run a business. So this is like a product or a tool that, in our opinion, is going to dramatically change how the scape of this world looks, and in terms of business and productivity and stuff. And yeah, we think it's that's why we're selling this as solutions. We believe in this as a technology. We think it's going to make as much impact as what the internet did. We think everyone's going to be using it.
Yeah, and to think about this from a business standpoint, I talk about this a lot, and if you break down like all the business tasks that like most businesses want, it goes down to you can break it down to a few things, and the ones that I like to think about for AI and for automation, it's generating leads, and then it's cost savings, which you can sum that up to like just increasing profit or saving time, or like just like when I say like saving time, I mean like cost savings time. I mean like if you have a business owner who is working like 80 hours a week, can we get him to work 40 hours a week? Like that's for small business owners. That's a real thing that happens all the time. If I have engineers who are working 60 hours a week, can I get them to work 40 hours a week? Well, that's cost savings, which means profit. So if we break these things down very easily, if I can show a business owner how I can reduce their time that they need to be working from 60 hours to 40 hours a week consistently by automating tasks, by using AI, by creating these chatbots that help customer service, but ultimately it's going to be increasing profit or saving time. So when you approach businesses, especially with automations, we talk about business process management. Well, there's also business process automation. So one of the things I like to think about this is just if you own a business or if you've been in any work for any business, just think about like all the processes that go along in that business. So from point A to point Z of somebody completing a task. And the easiest way to do this, I think, is just like thinking about like, okay, as a butcher, okay, how do I slice a piece of meat? Or as an accountant, how do I prepare somebody's tax documents? There is an A B C D E F G process that you have to do, and you just go through each one and can I automate this? Can I automate this? Can I make this easier? Can I eliminate this task? And we use the Eisenhower matrix. So a lot of times we're like, all right, can I eliminate this? Can I delegate this? Or can I automate it? And you just go through every single one of those tasks and say, can I automate this? And just think about that with AI and think about it with automations of how can I make this business's life easier? Now, the marketing part of this is how do I package this up into a nice, lovely box with a beautiful bow and in a way that's very clear and concise so that they understand that you're actually going to be able to help them. Now, one of the best ways to do this is to actually just make a freaking demo showing, hey, this is an automation that I made for you that would save you X amount of time. Now, did we go into the niches in this or no? Okay,
No
so
niches in this,
you know, when
but we can
you
do.
have okay, yeah. So when you have a niche, when you understand like a person's problem, you'll be able to like understand very deeply and intimately what their actual problems are. So you'll be able to say like, Sam, you're an accountant, and I know that you you know, every single week you manually enter 10 hours of data. Well, I made this process, and you show them the process, and you know, of like, hey, this is how I would eliminate you doing that task every single week, and I would actually send you a report that you do yourself, and if that takes you 4 hours, so every single week I'm saving you 14 hours from doing this thing. Even if you're saving Sam, you know, 4 hours, 4 hours to Sam is probably, you know, at least $400 a week that you're saving him, you know, and if you can do that forever, then that's just it's you know that just compounds, right? So just that's how I think about like AI and automations because we can get super granular of like what AI is, what machine learning is, what you know what these things look like. But as a business, you don't really need to know the granularity unless you're actually making you know these models, unless you're like going super deep with this. And a lot of times you don't need to know how to do it yourself. You just need to know how these things work.
Yeah,
But this is not that video on
yeah, no,
like
for
talking
sure.
about RAG or any of that stuff. But what the cool part about this is using automations and AI or generative AI. So a lot of stuff we do now, a lot of the automations we have are like a process. So simple one. I'll type something in the Discord that gets pulled out from by Zapier or by Make. It goes into ChatGPT. It turns that into a blog post, or it turns into a video idea, or it turns it into a lead magnet or whatever, and then that pulls it from there and puts it into Smart Suite so that we can have a very beautiful solution where I can see all the ideas and I can have all the schedules of what you know, all the things that I've thought about during the week, and then I can have James or Camille approve it, and then turn that into a LinkedIn post where it just posts automatically, or a Instagram post or whatever. So like just thinking about that process of I had one idea, either a voice or I typed a message. Okay, that took me a few seconds to a few minutes, and then that got transformed from a GPT, from ChatGPT, from a prompt that we made one time, and then that prompt turned that into something like tangible that got released into the wild. Now we took that there was 4 or 5 steps that we just automated completely, and you can do this with for almost every single business. You just have to figure out what that business what that process is. All right. So like for me, the reason why this task matters is because I'm highly ADHD. So if I have a really good idea and I stop what I'm doing to write down that idea, I am literally in a lot of cases wasting 1 to 4 hours because before I remember what I was doing and able to get back in the mind space and able to like focus on that task I was doing can cost me up to 4 hours, and it happens a lot. So if I can just very quickly say what I want to say into a voice note in the Slack or type it real fast in the Discord and it's out of my brain, because if it stays in my brain, it's gonna just it is going to like wreck me the rest of the day if I can't get it out and I forgot it. So now I already have, so that idea went out, and now it's a freaking LinkedIn post. Now it's an Instagram post. Now it's a freaking YouTube video getting ready to be recorded within a few seconds. So just, I know that's very convoluted, very like, you know, long-winded way of talking about automations, but that's just the way I think about automations. And there's a way to like think about this for every business, most
Yeah,
businesses.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I kind of want to just I kind of want to go over what you said, but maybe just say it differently to see if there's any way of me saying it where people might comprehend it differently. Because the only thing I would say in that is there was a lot of tools, right? Like a lot of names of tools mentioned, and that's great if you understand what those tools can do. But a lot of people out there maybe don't know what Zapier or Make is. They don't know what ChatGPT is, etc. these are AI and automation softwares, people, right? And in layman's, all Jofa was talking about there was taking or having the ability to have maybe one or two softwares talk to each other, which we've never really been able to do before. Like not since the days of automation and stuff. And then also that process in between has the ability to move data from one place to another. And then that data can be queried with the AI brains that people are building and, generate an output or a response or in Jofu's case, a LinkedIn post, right? And that's one example of how there's going to be millions and millions of use cases in the manner in which you can use this through automation, through AI. We're just trying to give it to you in very basic forms in how we use it, how businesses will use it. Posting content every day is a pain in the ass, right? So what did people invent when that was like become a problem? They invented like content schedulers. So that still meant you had to go in there manually and schedule your content. You just done it on a Sunday night, so you didn't have to worry about posting throughout the week every day. Well, the next step now is, can we generate those posts so that we don't have to go in there every Sunday night and put that content out there on a scheduler? We can just have that content generated for us and then automatically put into that scheduler, and this
Yeah.
is the world where it's going. Mundane tasks, mundane processes, things you think about more than twice, you potentially don't have to think about again. You can move on to other things. You can like focus on other areas. You can win back time all the time with this stuff right now. And that's what we eventually or ultimately preach to business owners.
And if you look at like stuff like meetings or like when we do these coaching calls, one of the beautiful things that I do personally right now is I'll take a coaching call and I'll take the things I said and then I'll put that into a GPT and I say, okay, just make this idea into a post, right? Like or format it into a post. It's shit I said, right? Or it's a phone call we had, and I'm just repurposing that content for LinkedIn, for Twitter, for YouTube, for whatever. That type of stuff is so powerful. If you're recording your phone calls and or meetings for work, what you can do is just take those meetings. It's not like sensitive data, and turn that into a newsletter for your entire company or a newsletter, a business newsletter. Hey, pull out the 10 most important ideas from this meeting and turn into a business content newsletter. Like just super prompt, and then you can prompt these things for yourself, your ideas, your persona, and to make it sound pretty good, and you can go in and edit yourself and then post that newsletter. That type of stuff, just the stuff you're doing, you can turn into content.
Yeah, for sure. I love this aspect, and that content is one of the easier ones for people to understand. For anyone watching this who's never used it before, I highly recommend going and using a tool called perplexity.ai. If you found Google to be pretty monotonous, this will show you another way of searching the internet in a much less monotonous and more personalized manner. It'll be able to search the internet for you. It'll be able to bring blog posts right at your disposal in the chatbot interface, as opposed to you having to constantly scroll through Google, click link after link after link. It's just even that simple, efficient process of searching the internet has become and been made so much easier through these processes. So, yeah, we won't go into this too much. We have loads of content on this, but again, just general overviews of all of this sort of stuff and making people aware.
I want to touch one more thing. I want to touch one more thing.
Go on. Go ahead.
Research. So research Perplexity. Yeah. We have automations now where like we'll take a Slack message or we'll take a message and then we'll say, okay, go use Perplexity to like research this idea, right? And like that by itself is like super powerful as well. So I wanted to like say that because it was in my head like, okay, that's another really good use case that a lot of people can use for research, market research, just or general research. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why Perplexity for me is like my leading lead magnet when I'm talking to people who don't know anything about AI and automation, because everyone knows or has that I know has used Google for search, and everyone I know hates using the internet when they use Google. It feeds you a load of crap that no one wants to read. It's adverts promoted by people that you don't want to buy stuff off of, and it's ultimately just a distracting environment in which you just need to go on there, do one or two things, and then come back off of it. Like our daily lives nowadays are just too busy. We have too much distraction going on. We want to try and eliminate that. And so Perplexity, as Jofi was saying, like not only do you not only have to now go on to Perplexity and search it yourself, you can have other stuff in your business searched for you just through a process. It doesn't even have to be a trail of thought once you've set it up. It will do it automatically for you. And that's the beauty of it, That is the beauty.
And we can build chatbots around this. We can build all kinds of stuff around that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So last couple of slides. So obviously one factor in this agency space that we really do talk about, and this is where we'll deep dive into it a little bit more now, but the experience that you have is key. When you come into this environment, it does not matter where you come from. It does not matter if you've never been in business before. It doesn't matter if you've never been in sales before, marketing, e-com, any industry for that matter. You could be brand new to business, right? But you've just got to realize that you have to evaluate that experience. You have to realize that you're coming in at that point. So you have to be pragmatic with the timeframes you give yourself in order to be successful. If you're coming into this environment where you basically already have an agency, as we mentioned before, like a piece of low hanging fruit for any agency owners out there not using AI, like get learning it, because it will transform your agency. Like it will literally transform some of the stuff that you do. And so you might have a completely different experience coming into this than what someone who's new to business does. And so your time frame and the allocation that you put to it and where you target your industry or your services or what you're trying to solve is based on your experience, and that's ultimately what we don't see enough of. I don't think, Joe. I think we see a lot of people come in and they have all this experience to fall back on, and they really don't kind of focus on that. They kind of go and try something completely new alongside learning new software, alongside learning a new business model, and they just make it really, really complicated for themselves.
You'll have people who have like 20 years of experience in like a niche topic, like I don't know, skateboarding, for example, and then they're like, okay, I'm gonna go after dentist, and it's like, wow, I think dentistry and I think like these med spas are like super high profit, and there's a lot of them, and they have the money to spend on marketing. There's probably a skateboarder out there who would pay a lot of money for like and I'm using it as an example, but like there's probably a sports medicine, there's probably a apparel company that would pay a lot of money because their niche is skateboarding, and they go after a very small niche of skateboarders who buy very expensive apparel, who buy expensive wheels, bearings, boards, shoes, socks, skateboarding shirts, skateboarding hats. There is a niche out there who are looking for a chatbot that helps their customers navigate their website and find the best product for them. They're looking for and like that was just off the dome. There's you can think about this not even for skateboarding. Somebody like I do jujitsu, been doing jujitsu for almost 8 years now. Okay, like what like yeah, I can go into like dentistry and stuff like that. Like I'm not saying you should go into jujitsu or like that thing, but like the first thing you should think of, okay, what am I good at? What am I passionate about? What can I like? What things do I already have in my inventory that I have been doing for 20 years naturally that I could use, and can I make that into a business? Now, we have the Ikigai here, and so we're not going to go too much in detail, but just having a list and an inventory of things you love, things the world needs, what people will actually pay you for, and what you're good at. When you meet those things in the middle is your Ikigai. I think it's the word of like purpose, like what's your life's meaning.
Yep.
And if you can find that spot of like all those things, then you'll be truly fulfilled. We're getting to that point for me personally with our business, because we are integrating teaching into, for like me, which is what I want to be when I was growing up. I wanted to be a professor, a college professor, and now I get to teach and I get to do that thing. But also it's super important to actually do the shit. So like I can't just like teach, because teaching in this space without actually doing the shit is bullshit. So like for me, it's like, okay, I'm still learning the craft, but also teaching it. And so like we're getting closer and closer for me for that purpose of life, that meaning, that fulfilling thing where like we're doing things that's kind of draining my cup slowly, but then on Monday I get to fill my cup back up. On Wednesday I get to fill my cup back up. And like we're having these other calls where like I'm not just like selling, but I'm also teaching and helping and helping other people solve their problems. So like that's filling my cup back up. So my cup is just overfilling almost constantly. So whenever like those monotonous tasks happen where like I have to put data entry or I have to do like something that's boring, like yeah, that's emptying my cup out. But then I turn around and I get to do something cool, and it fills me up.
Mm-hmm.
So just thinking about like before you go gung ho, and I see that, and I just use dentistry a lot because people are like, this is the one. It's real estate. People and listen, I'm not saying real estate's a bad niche to go after. I think it's a good niche to go after, but I just think before you decide to go after dentists and go after real estate agents who are marketed to all the time, just understand that there's things that you've been doing for if you're above the age of 20 for 10 plus years. Okay, so if you're 20, there are like people out there who would love a whatever your favorite anime is, chatbot maybe. There's so many schools out there. There's so many like niche communities out there that would love for you to build them a product for that thing that you can make money off of, and that you would be super excited to make to do. Now again, can you make money off of it? And does the world need it? Does it need this thing? So like maybe you can't make a one piece chatbot that like also makes you money. That might not be a thing. Okay. Which is fine. Let's do another thing. Okay, can we do a general anime or a general like movie chatbot that a website that has a lot of traffic, can talk about all these movies and all these animes or whatever. Yeah, that's probably a better option. You can make a database, a knowledge base, and then would you actually enjoy this? Yeah, I would love this. Now, pulling back a little bit, if you need money, you need money. So like sometimes you're gonna do shit that you don't want to do, but that stuff is going to drain you eventually. Eventually, you are going to be drained by doing the shit you don't want to do. So that's why it's so important that like at first, if you decide, okay, for 6 months, I'm gonna do some shit I don't want to do that I'm bored with and I hate it, then that's fine. But you have to be intentional with that. That hey, I am going to do this for 4 to 6 months, and at that 6 month mark, okay, what am I good at? What do I want to do? What am I passionate about, etc.
Finding your passions is key, people. I made that mistake when I was younger. I went into university having a real passion for business in my younger years before university, but because I liked sport and I didn't really want to continue business for a bit, I decided to get into sports science at university, and I quickly found out that my passion and my love for sports was not the same as my willingness to turn it into a business for myself and as actual knowledge from that perspective. So I quickly found out that it wasn't for me. And I quickly started getting back into business, and I had that purpose again, where I felt like I was in the right place. And you guys have got to find that. Sometimes you're not going to find it first time. As Jofu said, like he
Yep.
grew up wanting to be a teacher, but how old are you now, Jofu? Just to let the people know.
38.
So he's 38 now. So
Yep.
did you do any teaching?
I think I made
in
the
your
decision I wanted to be a professor at 28. So about 10 years
Yeah.
now, I wanted to be a professor. Like I was like,
There you go.
well, no, you know what? No, I was probably like 20. I was probably 24 when I realized like because like my professors changed my life. Like it was like one of those things where like, oh, I want to do that. I seen what they can do. So it was yeah. So 14
And there
years
you
now
go,
I've been wanting
people.
to do
Like
that.
having that
Yeah.
dream now, but it coming into fruition in 10, 12, 14 years time might be the reality for
Yeah.
you, but are you prepared to make that sacrifice? Or are you prepared to do everything you can in your powers to eventually get to that goal? Might not happen for a while. You might have to go. You might want to go traveling first before you do all that. Go live your life, people. Like, don't
Yeah.
just feel like business is the only option for you. But if you're feeling now like
Yeah.
you want to get into business, you want to change your current lifestyle, you want to, become a bit more financially free, because that's what running your own business is going to eventually enable you to become.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight, but that's the ultimate goal for all business owners, is to have that financial freedom, that time freedom, and that ability to, do what you want. And I feel like AI and automation is the perfect place to
Yeah.
start, even if it's not the place you finish, because whenever you build another business in future, if you have these skills at your disposal and you know how these tools go together, you'll soon build yourself a fully functioning business that pretty much runs on autopilot.
Yeah.
This is what we're
Yeah.
aspiring to do. So we want others to do
Yeah.
the
And
same.
it's definitely the oh sorry. Yeah, it's definitely the future for sure. And I think where I was at, like a few people know this, like last year in 2023, I was looking for another job, and I applied to 100 and something companies. Sorry, I applied to over 1,000 companies. I had 150 something interviews. Like it was grueling, and there was a breaking point for me where I'm like, okay, it'd just be easier to just start my own shit. And this is like not a this might be you listening to this video. You might be in the same space of like either I'm afraid of being laid off, or I'm afraid of or like I was already laid off and I'm looking for work, and I've been looking for work for 8 months and I have no other choice. Like that was kind of where I was at. I had some job offers, but it was not things I wanted to do. It was not like, oh my God, I'm so excited to do this. And so it was like, and I was at a point in my life where I'm like, okay, I can spend 6 months doing this. Matter of fact, when my wife, I sat down and I said, okay, like, can I do this for 3 months? Because I've been interviewing. Drained from doing interviews. I'm like, hey, listen, it was November. And I said, job offers are about to slow down. I'm not getting as many interviews because of the toward the end of the year. That's when the budget's kind of empty and they come back, January, February. I said, hey, by February, can I, if I can't make this work, I'll go back and start looking for work. And I just so happened to meet Ben and James, and now it's almost July, and we're making this thing work. And so like I know there's other Jofus out there, I know there are other people out there who like, man, even if I wanted to work for another company, maybe that's not an option anymore. Like in doing what you're trying to do, like for me, doing what I was trying to do works really well for a agency. Now, without Ben and James, it wouldn't work as well because I like doing the overseeing, like the grand scheme of things, and that's how I function. But I'm able to hone those skills now with AI and automations, and I'm able to like make that thing work way better now. And so I just think for people who, if you are in that same situation I was in, where like, hey, it's really difficult to find jobs, and I think that is becoming more of a thing of not just like people finding a job, but finding the right job. Like you're not finding a job that's fulfilling for you. Even if right now, like you do this and you go down this AI agency path, there are companies who are like begging us to work for them now, because like Ben gets so many offers. I get offers now all the time to work for somebody because they're like, oh, you're learning the skills that we cannot afford to train our employees on. Our employees don't want to work on these skills because they're so freaking busy and they don't have the bandwidth to learn about all these automations. So like now, like even if you don't end up doing this long term, you're going to get skills that are just invaluable. That are management skills. That are product management skills. That are operational skills, marketing skills that you're going to have to learn in order to be an agency. When you start an agency, depending on where you start at, there are certain things you have to learn, and that's marketing and sales. First off, like if you're doing any of this stuff, you have to learn sales. I'm not saying you need to be a salesperson forever, but you need to learn how to like attract people, and that's why we say build cool shit and show it to people. If you can just build some cool shit, okay, and then throw it on YouTube or throw it on LinkedIn, then awesome. If you don't know how to build shit and you know how to market stuff and you know how to sell, then find somebody who can build some cool shit. You partner up with them and say, hey, you build cool shit, I'm gonna show it to people, and then there we go. Beautiful. Happily ever after. So yeah, sorry for that tangent, but I mean, like, that's
No. I think it was good. I think it's a good point to finish, to be honest. I've read the last slide, and the last slide is a literal
okay.
overview of what we've just gone over. We realize this
Yeah.
is quite a long video for some of you. We hope you have made it towards the end of this. We hope it's been of value to some of you. We hope it's been a bit enlightening for you. But really, this is what your AI agency journey should look like in short. Assess the opportunities you've got. Have you got the ability to do this part-time? Have you got the ability to do this full-time? What does your previous experience look like? Does it align with what, the goals of what an AI agency owner would look like? And then if that does sort of fit the bill, you got to develop those expertise people. You got to surround yourself with the people who are, doing the shit. You got to surround yourself with the people who are going to better yourself. They're going to provide you with the information or the skill sets in order to achieve what you want to achieve. And then you got to go for it. You got to launch it and you got to grow it.
And,
I love that.
yeah, and I think like right now is probably a good plug time, just for us. But I think looking at when you're starting this thing, having the inventory of what you're good at and what you want to do, and what you're passionate about, and having a idea of where you want to go with this. Now, what we do in the Founders Forge, especially like with the one-on-one consulting calls, is we break down all that shit. We break down your niche. We break down like action, like what you should be doing, action on the action steps you should be taking, you personally. The problem people have is they'll watch all these videos and there's like no direction. It's like, oh, go do these things and have fun. What we do in coaching calls, one-on-ones, is break down that shit, like where, James, you need to on Monday go do these actions, and on Tuesday and by Wednesday you should be almost done. By Friday, all this shit should be done. And if you keep doing this, then like if you're not successful, then you're the unluckiest person in the world. Like that's that. So
yep, for sure. There isn't a one size fits all process to this. And then ultimately that is what makes this business quite difficult. It's not as simple as what creating a load of ad sets for people once was and running their ad campaign. It's not the same as setting up a Shopify e-commerce store, and the only variation is the data and the images that go into it. There's a lot more aspects to it that you need to uncover first, and everyone's journey is personalized to their own.
Yep.
The sooner you can find that direction, the sooner you can find that purpose, the sooner you'll be on the right tracks to getting to where you want to get to. So yeah, I think that rounds us up pretty well, to be fair,
Awesome.
Joe. But I enjoyed that chat. It was good. Or the two-stage chat with the costume change in the middle, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Let's do it again.
Yeah, for
All right.
sure. Take care, people.
All right. Peace out.